The forest of Arendor stretched endlessly, its trees tall and ancient, their branches weaving a dark canopy that swallowed the sunlight. Shadows moved between the trunks like silent spirits, and the wind whispered secrets only the brave or the foolish dared to hear. Lyra had always been drawn to this forest, despite the tales that called it cursed, dangerous, and forbidden. She moved lightly over moss-covered stones, listening to the call of distant birds and the rustle of leaves, her senses alert. It was late afternoon when she first heard it, a faint, desperate cry almost lost in the wind. Lyra froze. The sound was small, high-pitched, and full of fear. Her heart thumped in her chest. Most people would have ignored it, chalking it up to the wind or some distant animal, but Lyra couldn't. She had always been one to act, not to turn away. She followed the sound, careful not to make a noise, moving through the dense undergrowth. Soon she found the source, a small wolf pup, its fur matted with dirt and blood, shivering violently as it struggled to drag itself forward. Its eyes, wide and frightened, locked onto hers. Lyra knelt slowly, speaking softly. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." The pup whimpered and tried to crawl toward her, but its leg was twisted at an awkward angle. Lyra's stomach clenched at the sight. She could see the tiny bones, almost broken, the fur stained dark. She knew the forest could be cruel. Predators and traps were everywhere. But she could not leave the pup to die. Gently, she scooped the pup into her arms. Its little body trembled, and she felt its rapid heartbeat against her chest. She whispered words of comfort, though she doubted it understood them. Every step she took was a careful balance, avoiding roots and rocks that could make her stumble. But as the forest grew darker, she realized she was far from safety. By the time night fell, Lyra was exhausted. Her arms ached from carrying the pup, and her legs were stiff and sore. She stumbled over a hidden root and almost fell, catching herself just in time. She knew she needed to find shelter, but the forest offered little. Her eyes scanned the shadows, and she saw a small hollow beneath a fallen tree. It was cramped and dark, but it would protect them from the chill and the predators of the night. As she laid the pup down, wrapping it in her cloak, a strange feeling washed over her. The air seemed to grow heavier, charged with a presence she could not see. She looked around, heart pounding, but the forest appeared calm again. Perhaps it was just her imagination, or perhaps it was the forest itself watching. Lyra tried to sleep, but her mind would not let her. She thought about the pup's family, whether they were lost or dead. She thought about the wolves of Arendor. Some said they were more than animals, that they were guardians of the forest, bound by magic older than any human memory. She had never seen such a thing herself, but tonight, with the air so still and the shadows so deep, she felt as if the forest itself were alive and aware of her presence. Hours passed and fatigue finally overcame her. She drifted into a restless sleep. The pup nestled against her, its soft whines barely audible over the rustling leaves. The night deepened and an eerie quiet fell over the forest. Then from the shadows she heard a sound, a soft, deliberate step on the moss, too heavy for a deer, too silent for a human. Her eyes snapped open. Heart racing, she strained to see through the dark. A tall figure emerged, moving with a grace that seemed unnatural. Its shape was imposing but somehow familiar, as if the forest itself had taken form. Lyra's breath caught in her throat as amber eyes met hers. They glowed faintly in the dark, filled with intensity and something she could not name: power, anger, and perhaps curiosity. Lyra froze, unsure whether to run or stay. The figure stopped a few paces away, silent, observing her. She noticed its features, strong, sharp, almost otherworldly. Its presence made the air feel charged, heavy with energy. Her instincts screamed that this was no ordinary human, but something else. Something ancient, something dangerous. The figure knelt slowly, its movement precise, deliberate. Its gaze never left hers. Lyra felt a strange pull, a mix of fear and fascination, and though she wanted to speak, her voice seemed caught in her throat. The forest held its breath as if waiting for what would happen next. Finally, the figure reached forward, not threateningly but with caution. It brushed a hand near the pup, not touching it but sensing its presence. Then slowly it spoke, its voice deep, smooth, and commanding. "You dared to protect it." "In my forest." Lyra swallowed hard. I couldn't leave it. It would have died." Her words were small but honest. She did not know why she spoke to this stranger, why she felt compelled to explain herself. The figure stood fully, towering over her, and tilted its head as if considering her. Most humans would have turned away. Most humans would not survive this forest, let alone its dangers. Why risk yourself for such a fragile creature? Lyra met its gaze, feeling the pull of those amber eyes. Because it needed me, because I could. Her voice trembled slightly, but she did not look away. For a long moment the figure said nothing. Then it stepped closer, and Lyra caught a glimpse of its form, broad-shouldered, cloaked in dark fur that seemed almost alive, moving with a fluidity that made it seem part human, part wolf. The forest seemed to recognize it, the wind whispering through the trees like a chorus of approval or warning. "You are brave," the figure said at last, a shadow of a smile touching its lips. "But bravery is not enough here. The forest tests all who enter, and it will test you soon." Before Lyra could respond, fatigue overwhelmed her completely. Her body shivered violently. Her legs gave way and she fell unconscious, still clutching the pup to her chest. The figure reached forward, lifting her effortlessly into its arms. Its amber eyes glowed brighter in the dark, scanning the forest, alert for any danger. The pup whimpered softly, nuzzling against Lyra as the figure moved through the night. Its footsteps were silent but swift, carrying them away from the dangers of the forest floor. Lyra's unconscious mind caught only glimpses: the sound of wind in the trees, the glowing eyes that watched over her, the sense of a power she could not comprehend. Finally, the figure stopped at the edge of a hidden clearing. There, carved into the mountainside, was a fortress unlike anything Lyra had ever seen. Its walls were black stone, silvered in the moonlight, and its gates were guarded by figures that seemed more wolf than human. The air hummed with magic, and the forest itself seemed to bow to this place. The figure carried her inside, setting her gently on a raised platform covered with soft furs. The pup nestled beside her, safe for the first time in the night. The figure knelt once more, watching her as she lay unconscious, its expression unreadable. "This forest," the figure whispered almost to itself, "has chosen her, and in choosing her it has changed everything." Outside, the wind howled through the ancient trees, carrying a warning and a promise. The forest's trials had only just begun, and the fate of Lyra and the pup she saved was now entwined with the power and mystery of the Alpha King who had found her. The forest waited, silent and watchful, as the first hints of dawn began to touch the sky. Lyra woke to the soft golden light of dawn filtering through tall, narrow windows. The warmth was unfamiliar, and for a moment she could not remember where she was. Her body ached, every muscle stiff from exhaustion. The pup she had saved was curled beside her, nuzzling her hand with gentle whimpers. Relief washed over her as she realized it was safe. Then she noticed the room. It was unlike any place she had ever seen. The walls were carved from black stone, smooth and cold yet beautiful, and streaked with veins of silver that caught the morning light. Strange tapestries, embroidered with shapes of wolves and mountains, hung along the walls. The air was heavy but calm, scented faintly with pine and something wild, untamed. Lyra sat up slowly, feeling both awe and unease. Before she could take in more, she felt a presence behind her. Turning, she saw him, the Alpha King, Kalen. He stood tall and commanding, cloaked in dark fur that shimmered like the night itself. His amber eyes studied her with careful intensity. Lyra's pulse quickened. "You're awake," he said, his voice deep and calm, carrying authority without harshness. "Good, you need strength for what lies ahead. I don't understand," Lyra said softly, still wary. "Where am I?" "You're in my court," Kalen replied, walking slowly around her. "You are safe here for now. The forest brought you to me." Lyra frowned. "The forest brought me." Kalen's gaze held hers. "It has chosen you. Your courage, your compassion, they are rare among humans. You risked your life to protect something weak. The forest recognizes that. And it brought you to me because your path is no longer your own." Lyra felt a shiver run down her spine. The weight of his words was strange and heavy, as if fate itself pressed upon her. She wanted to ask more questions, to understand, but the fear in her chest kept her silent. Kalen nodded, as if reading her hesitation. "Do not be afraid. I do not intend to harm you. But you must understand this. My world is dangerous, and yours will be as well if you stay." Lyra swallowed hard. "Then why am I here? What do you want from me?" Kalen paused, his eyes narrowing slightly. I want to know why a human would act with such bravery in a world where most fear their own shadow. I want to see if your heart is as strong as your will. The forest and I, we have rules. And one of those rules is that no human may enter this court untested. Lyra's brows furrowed. Tested? What kind of test? Kaelin's gaze softened just slightly. Not a test of strength nor of skill. A test of spirit. You will face challenges, and through them, we will learn what drives you, and perhaps, what you are capable of. The words were both frightening and thrilling. Lyra had faced dangers before, but nothing like this. And yet, a part of her felt drawn to it, as if some invisible thread connected her to Kaelin, to the court, to the forest itself. Kaelin gestured, and the pup stirred, looking up at him with bright eyes. You saved this one, he said, his voice almost reverent. A small act, yet it carries weight beyond your understanding. Wolves are not just animals here. They are guardians, protectors, and sometimes guides. Lyra nodded, clutching the pup closer. I only wanted to help it survive. And you did, Kaelin said. Which is why you are alive, and why you are here. The morning passed slowly. Kaelin allowed her to rest and provided food, simple yet nourishing. Lyra could not stop thinking about him, about the forest, about the strange pull she felt in his presence. He did not speak much, but his eyes always seemed to find hers, observing, measuring, silently demanding honesty from her very soul. By midday, Kaelin finally spoke again. You must walk with me, he said, extending a hand. It is time for you to see the court, to understand the place you have entered. Lyra hesitated for a moment. The thought of venturing into the unknown made her pulse quicken. But she knew she could not remain hidden forever. She nodded, letting him lead her. The court was a marvel of design and magic. Halls of black stone stretched far beyond her vision, lit by lanterns that glowed with a soft silver light. Figures moved within the shadows, humans and wolves, some blending together in ways that made her heart race with both awe and fear. She could see the strength, the discipline, the silent respect that flowed through this place like a living thing. Kaelin walked beside her, his presence both protective and commanding. This is a place of balance, he said. Every creature, every spirit here serves a purpose. Every action carries consequence. Remember this, human, here your choices matter. Lyra nodded, absorbing the strange, beautiful world around her. The wolf pup in her arms whimpered, and she realized it was responding to the strange energy in the court. Kaelin noticed his amber eyes softening. You have brought life into this place, he said quietly, and in doing so you have stirred things that have been still for centuries. That is not a small thing. Lyra's heart thumped. I don't understand. You will, he said. Sooner than you think. For now, know this. Your bravery has opened a door, but it is a door that can only remain open if you prove yourself worthy. The forest has chosen and the court watches, and I will watch you most closely. The rest of the day passed with more lessons than words. Kaelin observed her as she moved through the court, showing her how to navigate its hidden paths, how to listen to the forest, and how to sense the spirits that lingered at the edges of the halls. Each moment was a mixture of fear and fascination. Lyra realized that she was not just learning to survive. She was learning to understand a world far older and more dangerous than her own. As dusk fell, Kaelin led her to the edge of the fortress, where the forest stretched endlessly below. The sky was a deep violet, streaked with gold and crimson as the sun sank behind distant mountains. Lyra felt the wind against her face, wild and free, and she understood in a deep, instinctive way why the forest had called her here. You will rest here tonight, Kaelin said, his gaze fixed on the horizon. Tomorrow your trial begins. Lyra turned to look at him, her heart both afraid and oddly comforted by his presence. Trial, she repeated. Yes, Kaelin said softly. The forest tests all who enter, and it will test you. Your courage, your spirit, your heart. The Alpha King does not interfere lightly, but I will be by your side. Not to guide, but to watch. Lyra felt a strange warmth at his words, a pull she could not explain. She had always been brave, but never had she felt the weight of destiny pressing on her shoulders so clearly. The forest and this mysterious Alpha King had chosen her, and she could not turn away. As night fell fully, the wind whispered through the trees, carrying a low, mournful sound that made her pulse quicken. She wrapped the pup tightly in her cloak and lay down on the soft furs Kaelin had provided. Even in sleep, her mind could not rest. Thoughts of the pup, The forest, Kaelin, and the trials to come swirled together, heavy and relentless. Then, just as her eyes began to close, she heard it, a low growl deep and resonant, coming from the forest below. Her heart leapt. Kaelin's presence was beside her instantly, his eyes glowing in the darkness, scanning the shadows. "They are coming," he said quietly, more to himself than to her. "The forest's balance is threatened, and your path begins tonight." Lyra's breath caught. She did not know what awaited her, only that the night would test her, that the Alpha King and the forest were watching, and that her courage would be needed in ways she could not yet imagine. As she drifted into a restless sleep, the pup safe beside her, she felt the forest stir, alive and waiting, and in the shadows, unseen eyes watched, sensing the arrival of a human brave enough to challenge fate itself. The night was full of whispers, of distant growls, of wind through the ancient trees, and Lyra's journey had truly begun. The first light of dawn crept over the horizon, brushing the forest with silver and gold. Lyra stood at the edge of the fortress, the wolf pup safe at her feet, her heart pounding with anticipation. Today, Kaelin had said, her trial would begin. She did not know what the trial would involve, only that the forest would test her, and that the Alpha King would watch. Kaelin appeared silently beside her, as if the wind itself had given him form. "Are you ready?" he asked, his amber eyes fixed on her with a mixture of intensity and calm. Lyra nodded, though her stomach twisted with nerves. I think so." "Then follow me," Kaelin said, turning toward the forest. His movements were fluid and commanding, each step confident and precise. Lyra struggled to match his pace, but she did not falter. She could feel the weight of the forest pressing down around them, ancient and sentient, as if it knew her very thoughts. They reached a clearing where the trees parted to reveal a small glade, bathed in sunlight. At first it seemed calm, almost welcoming, but Lyra could feel the tension beneath the quiet. The air was charged, humming with energy that made her skin prickle. Kaelin stopped and turned to her. "Your trial is simple to explain, but difficult to endure. You must reach the heart of the glade where the forest spirit waits. Along the way you will face challenges, tests of courage, patience, and wisdom. You must trust yourself and trust the pup. Most importantly, you must remain true to your heart." Lyra swallowed hard, gripping the pup close. I will try." "Good," Kaelin said. "But know this. The forest does not forgive weakness." He stepped back and gave her a small nod. Then, as if released, Lyra moved forward, the pup cradled in her arms. The trees seemed to lean toward her as she walked, their shadows stretching and twisting. She felt eyes on her, unseen, watchful. Every crack of a branch, every rustle of leaves made her heart race. The first challenge came quickly. A fallen log blocked the path wider than she could jump, its surface slick with moss. Lyra set the pup down and studied it. She could either try to climb over herself or find another way. The forest seemed to whisper to her, urging her to act. With careful steps, she began to climb, but her foot slipped. She caught herself just in time, breathless. Her hands scraped against the mossy bark. The pup whined from below as if encouraging her. Lyra smiled through the fear. She could not fail, not while this little life depended on her. Finally, she climbed over and scooped the pup up again. Her heart swelled with relief and a small sense of triumph, but Kaelin's voice echoed in her mind even though he was not near. "This is only the beginning." As she moved deeper into the glade, the challenges became more difficult. A low mist rose from the ground, thick and chilling. Shapes seemed to move within it, shadows that shifted and twisted, whispering in voices she could not fully understand. Lyra felt panic rise, but she forced herself to breathe, to focus on the pup and on the path ahead. Then a sudden figure appeared within the mist, a wolf, larger than any she had ever seen. Its eyes glowed like embers and its teeth gleamed in the dim light. The pup whimpered, trembling, but Lyra stood firm. The wolf circled her slowly, sniffing, testing. Lyra did not move, did not speak. She remembered Kaelin's words, "Trust yourself. Trust the pup. Remain true to your heart." After what felt like an eternity, the wolf stepped back and lowered its head slightly. It was not attacking. It was testing her courage and her intent. Lyra let out a quiet sigh, relief washing through her. She knew then that the forest recognized her bravery. The next trial came in the form of sound. A cacophony of cries, growls, and whispers erupted from all around her. It was disorienting, terrifying, and for a moment she wanted to turn back. But she reminded herself that running was not an option. The pup looked at her with trust in its tiny eyes, and she knew she could not fail. She closed her eyes, focusing on the sounds, letting them guide her instead of frighten her. She could feel the rhythm of the forest, the pulse of life that ran through the trees, the earth, the air. Step by step she moved forward, letting instinct and heart lead her. When she opened her eyes, the mist had lifted and she found herself at the heart of the glade. A large stone stood there, carved with intricate symbols of wolves and forest spirits. Light seemed to radiate from it, warm and inviting. The pup ran ahead, nuzzling the base of the stone as if recognizing it. Kaelin appeared at the edge of the glade, silent as ever. Lyra turned to him, her chest heaving from exertion and fear. I made it, she said, a mix of pride and disbelief in her voice. Kaelin's amber eyes softened, though they still carried that intense focus that unsettled her. Yes, he said. You have passed the first trial. But know this, courage alone is not enough. The forest tests the heart as well as the body. Your next challenge is not one of strength, but of choice. Lyra frowned. Choice? Kaelin nodded. The forest is alive, and it will offer you temptations, distractions, and doubts. You must remain true to yourself, to your purpose. Only then will you understand why you are here, and what the forest expects of you. Before Lyra could ask more, the ground beneath the stone trembled. Roots emerged from the earth, twisting and writhing like living things. The pup yelped, hopping behind her for protection. Lyra felt fear, but also resolve. She could not falter now. The roots formed a circle around the stone, blocking access. But Lyra noticed that within the circle a smaller path remained, barely visible, faintly glowing. She realized instinctively that this path was meant for her. She stepped forward carefully, her heart steadying with each step. As she moved, the forest seemed to respond to her courage. The shadows softened, the mist lifted further, and the whispers grew quieter, almost encouraging. The path led her to the stone, where the symbols seemed to shimmer with life. She reached out, and the warmth of the stone flowed into her hands, filling her with a sense of connection, understanding, and strength. At that moment, Kaelin stepped into the glade, his presence calm yet commanding. You have done well, he said. The forest acknowledges your spirit. You have the courage to protect, the wisdom to endure, and the heart to understand. These are rare qualities. You are no ordinary human, Lyra. Lyra felt a strange emotion rise within her, a mix of pride, relief, and something she could not name. She looked at Kaelin, and for the first time their eyes met fully, without fear or uncertainty. There was a tension between them, a pull that made her pulse quicken. She wanted to speak, to ask him questions, but the forest seemed to hush itself, waiting for the moment to end. Kaelin moved closer, his gaze intense, yet softening. Your trial is not over, he said, but you have passed the first step. Remember this, the forest will continue to test you, and so will I, but courage and heart will guide you if you allow them. Lyra nodded, still holding the pup close. I understand. As the sun began to set, painting the forest in shades of gold and crimson, Kaelin led her back toward the fortress. Lyra walked beside him, feeling the weight of what had just happened. She had faced fear, confusion, and uncertainty, and she had emerged stronger. And yet, she knew that the real trials were only beginning. The pup trotted beside her, tail wagging as if sensing her triumph. But Lyra could not shake the feeling that the forest and Kaelin were watching her, testing her in ways she could not yet comprehend. When they reached the fortress gates, Kaelin stopped and looked at her. Rest tonight, he said. Tomorrow the forest will demand more of you, and the path ahead will test not only your courage but your heart. Lyra nodded, exhaustion and anticipation battling within her. She watched Kaelin disappear into the shadows of the fortress, his presence lingering like a flame she could not touch but could not ignore. As she lay down to sleep, the pup curled beside her. Lyra felt the forest stir around them, alive with whispers, shadows, and ancient energy. She closed her eyes, knowing that she had survived one trial, but that many more awaited, each demanding courage, trust, and the strength to face not only the forest's tests, but the growing connection she could not yet name with the Alpha King. The night was quiet, yet full of promise. Lyra's journey had only begun, and the forest watched, waiting to see what she would become. The next morning, the forest greeted Lyra with an eerie stillness. Mist clung to the branches and the air smelled of damp earth and pine. The pup nuzzled her feet as if sensing the tension that hung between the trees. Today, Kaylin had told her, she would face the trial that truly tested her heart. She walked beside him in silence, her steps careful over mossy roots and hidden stones. Kaylin did not speak much, but his presence was constant, a shadow at her side, powerful and calm. Lyra felt her pulse quicken with every glance at him. There was something in his amber eyes, a fire barely restrained, and she could not look away. "You must understand something," Kaylin said finally, breaking the silence. His voice was quiet but firm, carrying through the mist. "Courage is not enough. Strength alone will not carry you through what comes next. The forest tests intention, compassion, and the choices of the heart. You will be tempted. You will be challenged, and you will have to choose between what is safe and what is right." Lyra nodded, swallowing hard. I understand. I will do my best." Kaylin's gaze softened slightly, though it remained intense. "I do not doubt your courage. But courage without understanding can be dangerous. Remember, every choice matters." They reached a clearing where the mist lifted, revealing a small grove. At its center was a pool of water, still and dark, reflecting the silvered sky above. The surface rippled without wind, as if something beneath moved, watching. Lyra felt her breath catch. There was a presence here, powerful and silent, waiting. Kaylin stepped beside her. "This is the heart of the trial. What you see in this pool is not what it appears to be. You must face your fears, your doubts, and the truth of your own heart. Only then will you understand the path the forest has chosen for you." Lyra knelt beside the pool, holding the pup close. The water shimmered, and soon shapes began to form within its depths. Visions of loss, betrayal, and pain. She saw herself alone and afraid, failing to save those she loved. She saw the forest consumed by shadows, the pup lost, and Kaylin, wounded and furious, unable to protect what mattered most. Fear surged in her chest, and for a moment she wanted to turn away. But she remembered the pup, small and trusting. She remembered Kaylin's words, "You must remain true to your heart." She took a deep breath, forcing herself to face the visions. The water shifted, showing another scene, herself standing beside Kaylin side by side, facing dangers together. She saw moments of trust, moments of connection, and a strange warmth that spread through her chest. She realized then that the trial was not only about bravery, but about understanding the bonds that mattered, the choices that defined her, and the courage to act from love rather than fear. Suddenly, the water darkened, rippling violently. Shadows emerged from its surface, twisting into forms of beasts and dark spirits. Lyra stumbled backward, clutching the pup tightly. The creatures advanced, snarling and whispering, testing her resolve. Kaylin stepped forward, his presence commanding the shadows to halt. "Do not fear," he said. "They are part of the trial, part of the forest. They test your spirit, not your body." Lyra steadied herself, her heart pounding. I will not fail," she whispered. She took a step forward, then another, holding the pup close as she approached the shadows. She could feel the energy of the forest swirling around her, alive and waiting for her choice. The shadows lunged, testing her courage, but she did not run. Instead, she faced them, each step steady, her intentions clear. She reached the edge of the pool where the water shimmered and glowed, and placed the pup gently beside it. She looked into its depths, understanding that the trial required sacrifice not of life but of fear, hesitation, and doubt. Her reflection in the water changed, merging with the shadows. She saw herself not as weak or frightened, but as strong, compassionate, and capable. She saw Kaylin standing behind her, his expression unreadable, yet his presence steady and protective. The forest seemed to acknowledge her resolve, and the shadows receded slowly, dissolving into mist. Kaylin stepped beside her, his amber eyes locked onto hers. "You have faced your fears," he said. "You have chosen what is right, even when it was difficult. The forest honors that. But remember, this is only the beginning. Your choices will continue to matter, and the path ahead will demand more of you than courage alone." Lyra felt a mixture of relief and awe. She had survived the trial, but she also knew that the forest's power was far greater than she had imagined. The connection she felt with Kaylin had grown stronger, and she realized that she could no longer deny the pull she felt toward him. There was something in his presence, something that made her heart race and her mind ache with longing, even as she fought to focus on the trial at hand. Kaylin's voice broke through her thoughts. Come, it is time to return to the fortress. You need rest, and the forest requires time to settle before the next stage begins. As they walked back through the misty paths, Lyra noticed subtle changes in the forest. The trees seemed taller, the shadows deeper, and the wind carried whispers she could not fully understand. She sensed that the forest was alive in ways she had never imagined, and that her presence here had shifted something ancient and powerful. When they reached the fortress, Kaylin led her to a chamber lined with soft furs and blankets. The pup nestled beside her, and she felt a wave of exhaustion wash over her. She had faced fear, temptation, and uncertainty, and emerged stronger. But she knew that the forest trials were far from over. Kaylin stood at the doorway, his expression unreadable. Rest now, he said. Tomorrow the forest will demand more, and you must be ready. Lyra nodded, watching him leave. Her heart ached with an emotion she could not name. Admiration, fear, longing, and something deeper. She wrapped herself around the pup, feeling its warmth, and closed her eyes. The forest's whispers filled the room, a constant reminder that her journey was far from over. Hours passed, and the forest outside the fortress grew darker. Shadows shifted, and a chill crept through the walls. Lyra stirred in her sleep, dreaming of Kaylin, the pup, and the forest's trials. She saw visions of danger, of creatures lurking in the shadows, and of a power that could destroy or protect everything she loved. When she woke, the light had faded, replaced by the silver glow of the moon. The pup stirred beside her, and she realized that she was not alone. Kaylin stood in the doorway, silent as the night, his amber eyes fixed on her. You have grown stronger today, he said quietly. But strength is only part of what is required. The forest tests the heart as much as the body, and you have much to learn about both. Lyra rose slowly, the pup clinging to her cloak. I want to understand, she said. I want to do what is right. Kaylin nodded, a faint shadow of a smile touching his lips. Then you will. But know this, your choices will have consequences, and not all paths are clear. Some will lead to danger, others to understanding, and some will test the bond between us, whether you realize it or not. Lyra felt her pulse quicken at his words. There was a tension between them, a connection that seemed to grow with every shared glance, every word, every silent moment. She did not fully understand it, but she knew that her feelings for him had changed. They were no longer just fear or awe. They were something more, something that made her chest ache and her mind race. Kaylin stepped closer, his presence overwhelming yet comforting. Rest now, he said again. The forest will awaken again at dawn, and with it new trials. You must be ready. Lyra nodded, holding the pup close. She lay down, closing her eyes, but sleep was elusive. Her mind wandered to Kaylin, to the forest, and to the trials she had faced and those yet to come. She realized that the journey ahead would challenge her in ways she could not imagine. Not only her courage, but her heart, her trust, and her very understanding of the world she had entered. Outside, the wind whispered through the ancient trees, carrying shadows and secrets. The forest had acknowledged her courage, but it had also revealed its power. And Kaylin, the Alpha King, stood watch over her, not just as a guardian, but as a presence that stirred something deep within her. The night stretched on, full of quiet tension and anticipation. Lyra knew that the trials would continue, that the forest would demand more, and that her connection with Kaylin would be tested. And as she drifted into a restless sleep, she felt a quiet certainty. She could not turn back now. Her path, her choices, and her heart were all entwined with the forest, the pup, and the Alpha King who had found her, and who had awakened something in her that she could not ignore. Dawn broke slowly over the forest, spilling light like liquid gold across the towering trees. Lyra stood at the edge of the glade, the pup at her side, her heart steady despite the chill in the air. Today was the final trial. She could feel it in every breath. The forest pulsed with an energy that was both beautiful and dangerous. Kaylin appeared silently beside her, his presence as commanding and quiet as ever. This is the last step, he said. His amber eyes held an intensity that made her pulse quicken. Everything you have learned, everything you have faced comes to this moment. You will be tested like never before. Not just your courage, not just your heart, but your spirit itself. Lyra nodded, gripping the pup close. She felt fear, but it was tempered with resolve. She had faced shadows, whispers, fear itself, and she had emerged stronger each time. She was ready to face whatever the forest demanded. Kaylin extended a hand. We face this together, but you must act with your own heart. The forest will not guide your steps for you. Only your choices will determine the outcome. Lyra took his hand, feeling the warmth and strength in his grip. For a moment, their eyes met, and she felt a connection she could not fully explain, a bond of trust, understanding, and something deeper, something unspoken. Together, they stepped into the heart of the glade. The mist curled around them, thick and shimmering as if alive. Shapes moved within the fog, creatures of shadow and spirit testing their presence. The pup growled softly but did not falter, staying close to Lyra. Suddenly the ground trembled. From the mist emerged a massive wolf, larger than any Lyra had ever seen. Its fur was black as midnight, and its eyes glowed with an otherworldly light. It let out a low, resonant growl that shook the air, and the shadows behind it moved with it like dark waves. Lyra froze for a heartbeat, heart pounding, but Kalen's grip tightened around hers. "Do not fear," he said. "This is the spirit of the forest. It tests all who reach this point. You must show it your courage, your compassion, and your truth." The wolf stepped closer, sniffing the air. Lyra felt a strange pull, a sense that the creature was not merely a threat but a mirror of her own heart, reflecting her fears and hopes. She set the pup down gently, letting it watch her. She drew a deep breath, steadying herself. "I am not afraid," she whispered, though the words trembled at first. "I will not run. I will protect what is right." The wolf paused, its amber eyes meeting hers. Then it circled, testing, observing. Lyra kept her gaze steady, her heart open, showing no hesitation or deceit. Slowly, the beast's growl softened, its stance relaxing. It lowered its head slightly, acknowledging her courage. Kalen's voice was calm but filled with pride. "You have faced the forest and your fears. Now the final choice awaits. The forest asks, what do you value most? The safety of those you love or the comfort of your own heart?" Lyra's mind raced. She thought of the pup, small and trusting, of the forest that had challenged her, and of Kalen, whose presence had become more than protection. He had become a part of her journey, a guide she had learned to trust. She knelt beside the pup, placing a hand on its soft fur. "I choose life," she said softly. "I choose to protect those who cannot protect themselves, even if it is difficult or dangerous." "That is what matters most," the forest seemed to respond. The mist lifted slightly and the shadows receded. The massive wolf bowed its head fully, then stepped back, merging with the mist until it disappeared completely. The air was calm. The tension dissolved and a strange warmth spread through the glade. Kalen stepped closer, his eyes locked on hers. "You have chosen wisely," he said. "The forest honors your spirit. You have proven that your heart is true and your courage unwavering. You have passed the final trial." Lyra exhaled, relief washing over her like sunlight after a storm. She bent down, gathering the pup in her arms, and felt the pulse of the forest around her, the rhythm of life, of protection and of connection. Kalen watched her, his expression unreadable at first, then softening. "You are different from any human I have known," he said quietly. "Your heart is brave, your spirit strong, and you have changed the forest by being here." Lyra looked at him, her chest swelling with a mixture of awe and emotion. I could not have done this without you," she whispered. "Your guidance, your presence, it has mattered more than I can say." Kalen's amber eyes softened, and for the first time his commanding presence held a tenderness she could feel. "And yet, it was your courage, your choices that shaped the outcome. I only watched. But know this, your bond with the forest, with life itself, is strong. And with that bond comes power and responsibility." Lyra nodded, understanding the weight of his words. She had been tested, challenged, and transformed. She felt stronger, braver, and more alive than ever before, and she realized as her eyes met Kalen's that the connection between them had deepened, unspoken yet undeniable. The pup stirred in her arms, nuzzling her cheek. Lyra smiled, feeling the warmth of life and trust radiate from it. "We've done it," she whispered. "We've survived. Together." Kalen's gaze lingered on her and he stepped closer. "Together," he echoed. His voice was softer now, almost vulnerable, and it made Lyra's heart leap. The forest around them seemed to sigh in approval. The trees swayed gently, and the mist lifted entirely, revealing the glade in the full glow of morning. Light poured through the branches, illuminating the symbols carved in stone, the paths they had walked, and the bond they had forged. Kalen extended a hand. "Come," he said. It is time to return to the fortress. You have earned your rest, and the forest will continue to flourish under your presence. But more than that, you have proven your heart. Lyra took his hand, feeling the strength and warmth that had been with her since the day he found her unconscious in the forest. As they walked back through the glade, she realized something profound. The trials had changed her, but so had Kaelin. The bond between them was no longer simply protector and human. It was respect, trust, and something more. Something that could not be named yet, but that burned brightly in her chest. As they approached the fortress, Kaelin paused, turning to look at her. "Lyra," he said, his voice carrying a rare softness, "you have faced danger, darkness, and fear. You have emerged stronger, braver, and truer than any human I have known. Know this, you are no longer just a visitor in this forest. You are part of it, part of this world, and part of my life." Lyra's breath caught. She had felt a pull toward him, a connection she could not deny, but hearing it spoken aloud made her chest ache with emotion. I never expected any of this," she said softly, "but I am grateful, and I trust you." Kaelin's amber eyes softened further. "Then we will face whatever comes next together. The forest has chosen you, and so have I." The pup yipped happily, sensing the peace that had settled over the glade. Lyra laughed softly, feeling a lightness she had not known in weeks. The trials were over. The forest had acknowledged her courage and heart, and she had found a bond that went beyond words, beyond fear, beyond the shadows, as the sun rose higher, bathing the fortress and the glade in warm light. Lyra realized that she had not only survived but had transformed. The forest had tested her. The trials had challenged her, and Kaelin had guided her, not with force but with presence, with patience, and with trust. And now she understood something vital. Courage was not only about facing danger, it was about the choices we make, the hearts we protect, and the bonds we honor. Kaelin and Lyra walked through the fortress gates together, the pup trotting at their side. The forest behind them shimmered with life, its energy calm yet vibrant. Lyra felt a deep sense of belonging, of purpose, and of connection. She had faced the trials, embraced the forest's lessons, and found a bond that would endure beyond fear and shadow. Kaelin looked down at her, a faint smile on his lips, and reached out to brush a strand of hair from her face. "The forest and I are grateful," he said softly. "And I am proud." Lyra met his gaze, her heart full. "And I am changed," she whispered. "Stronger, braver, and ready for whatever comes next." Kaelin nodded, his hand still lingering near hers. "Then we will face it together," he said. And for the first time, Lyra felt that she was not alone. Not in the forest. Not in the trials, not in life. The pup yipped again, bounding ahead as if to show the way, and Lyra laughed softly, feeling the lightness of hope and trust. Together they stepped forward into the world that awaited beyond the glade, ready to face any challenge, any shadow, and any trial. Together, the forest whispered around them, alive and eternal, bearing witness to courage, trust, and a bond that would endure. And Lyra knew with a certainty that settled deep in her heart that she had not only survived the trials, she had found a home, a purpose, and a connection that would shape her destiny forever.